This is the Peace, Power, and Purpose podcast, where we spread awareness for men's mental health and spread the gospel of Jesus Christ. Be sure to like and subscribe on YouTube and Spotify. New episodes drop weekly. This is the Peace, Power, and Purpose podcast, and I'm your host, Steve. Tonight, I'm joined by Mike Vito. He is the founder of Precision with Purpose. Mike is a veteran, former law enforcement officer, and a paramedic and firefighter. While you're watching this, go ahead and hit like and subscribe so you don't miss an episode. Mike, thanks for joining the episode tonight, man. I appreciate your time.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate you and everything that you're doing, man. I think it's pretty important, you know, to build strength and resiliency in general. And I think, just as a human being navigating myself through this world, as a father, as a husband and someone that leads my family, I think um it's important, man. And we're always growing. Um, you know, from myself, coming from a family that didn't necessarily have it all, but we always had it, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, yeah.
Didn't have a silver spoon in my mouth, but I'm so proud to come from where I came from. My family could never talk bad on them. My dad worked his ass off. Um, my mom, same thing, coming home, making dinners at 10 years old, for my family. Like, I'm proud to have been able to do that. And Um, I'm constantly learning. So I'm glad that you're having me on, man.
Yeah.
Thanks for what you do. It is extremely important. I think more people need to get out there and not only be willing to talk about stuff, but like be willing to admit they're not perfect, but they're willing to be better, you know.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you. Thank you for the kind words, man. And, my goal with this is to try to encourage men to not follow the path that I did, because I was the guy that lived in shame and just, pride and didn't want to address my mental health. And so I self-sabotaged, and dude, I threw a lot away. I threw away 2 families and 2 careers because of it. And this isn't about me. I'm not going to get into all my shit, but I just don't want to see guys make the same mistakes I did, because it took me until I reached the age of 42 to finally get my shit together. So I'm just I'm trying to help, man. I'm trying to let other men out there know, like, hey, you can't control everything, and it's okay to ask for help. It's not weakness
hmm
to ask for help and guidance in this world, because we all need it. And like you just said, man, this is an ongoing thing. It's you're constantly evolving on a regular basis, or you have to be.
Yeah, that's 100% accurate. And some people never find it,
Hmm.
Some people never admit to themselves until they're on their deathbed. Where I'm at right now, it hits hard because you see people on that last bit of their life, the last minutes, seconds of their life are right there in front of you. Um, and I really appreciate being able to be there for people in that moment. But then you see the difference when someone's being taken care of by their family. You see the difference, you know, when you walk into someone's house and they're like 95 years old and they have their family there with them, they're being taken care of. Like, that's phenomenal, dude. Like, how do I get that? How do I get my family one day? Like, how you never know. You
Yeah.
could do everything right, but that hits hard, man. Like, you see that and you're like, God dang, dude. You see things on the walls, you're like, this person served their country. You sometimes you see things on the wall and you're like, holy crap, you were a New York firefighter? Like, I'm gonna, I take care of everybody the same, but it's like you really just, I don't care, man. Like, I'm a medic. I'll wipe someone's ass. I'll wipe them off, man. Like, I don't care, dude. That's someone's, like, they were they were me at one point, man. They were like my grandfather. They were a kid. They were they were raised up until a certain point. Someone loved them. And yeah, man, it's just that's all their life decisions ended up to that one point. And it's pretty important to, rectify whatever demons you have within yourself, because only you can do that. Only you can correct yourself, and only you can humble yourself enough to admit that you have never not been perfect. And it's okay. In my mind, it's okay not to be perfect, but we got to try and better ourselves a little bit every day. At least I try to live my life like that, especially when you have kids and now your kids are looking at you. And I remember looking at my dad and saying, holy shit, this guy's a superhero. Like my dad is the coolest freaking, nobody could beat up my dad. I want my kid to look at me like that, like how I saw my dad, and how I still see my dad, you know, hard worker, freaking just he's there for me no matter what. Even if he had nothing in his pocket, he would freaking be out here. And I mean, that's just phenomenal. I mean, my dad, like he does well now, and he came out here. Me and my wife married for 10 years, and he came out right before we did our renewal of vows, and he built a whole deck for me pretty much.
Wow.
Like I paid for the materials and stuff. My dad, the labor, like, and not only the labor, but like he over engineers stuff, and he's out here freaking, at 50, 54 years old now, just absolutely crushing it, digging holes, freaking whatever. I mean, he's just out there. He got furloughed. Thank God he was able to, come out here and help when he did, but it was literally like a blessing. Like he got furloughed, and every day he was furloughed, he came out here and built a deck.
Wow.
I just think that speaks volumes,
Yeah.
something that I need to continue to pass on to my son. Is that is that ethic,
That's
you
really
know?
cool that you have such a tight relationship with your dad, because so many guys that I talk to, especially that served in the military, first responder roles, they kind of have, father wounds, and they are really trying to prove themselves to the world because they didn't get that
Yeah,
validation as a kid from their dad. So it's really refreshing to hear that you have such a good relationship with your father.
yeah. It's well, where I come from, like, so when I was a kid, I was in special education classes.
Really?
So it's like it was this was my fault, honestly. Like I was a kid, I was 7 years old, and I remember we had to take, the standardized learning tests. And, I probably had ADHD like every 9 or 7 to 10 year old boy. Like I wanted to play. I didn't want to be in class. I wanted to do stuff. But I remember specifically sitting there taking the standardized learning test. And the night before, I watched like the Powerpuff Girls with my sister, and they were taking a test and they were making pictures with the bubbles. Well, that's exactly what I did. And let me tell you, so they thought that I had some sort of issue. And I didn't know at the time, man. Like I
Mm.
had no idea. I had no idea what repercussions were gonna. They put me in a small class with kids that had, I mean, they legitimately had problems. But from that point on, when I was in, and this happened in elementary school, and like, and because I was like hyper and freaking, like I could meet the, I guess the image, like of somebody that could have those issues, but I was in normal classes for like science and math, like the harder classes in my opinion. Like I always had like an issue with spelling, but I could read. Um, I think that's relatively common in general, but so they put me in that class, and every single day, man, people would be calling me like the R word. Like
Mm,
you're, every day, man, that's all I heard. And I was a little fat, like I was small. I hadn't hit puberty, and I'd get beat up, and it sucks as a kid being told that every day.
yeah.
Even as an adult, imagine like going through life being told that every single day, and then people, you know, that actually have those issues. It it actually gave me a significant respect for those people because they couldn't help that. Like I made a lot of my friends like in elementary school, they were on the spectrum. They had autism. They had issues, and most of them were in foster care. I mean, I would say a good 90% of those kids were in the system. And when you get to know people for who they are in those circumstances, like that's they have real problems, you know? I mean, they go home and they don't get to see mom and dad. They get to see mom and dad of the week, but that ain't mom and dad. I mean, coming from where I come from, law enforcement, fire department, whatever, you see that stuff, you get to go into their houses now. And I'm like, God dang, dude, that's what them poor kids had to live with?
Yeah.
And so it's just, not necessarily growing up hard because like my parents provided everything for me. Like they're phenomenal, and I probably wasn't the easiest kid to raise. But coming back from like having respect for my dad and stuff is like he had his demon. You know, he had brain surgery when he was a kid. He was
Wow.
he had a tumor in his head, and growing up, that was the thing for him where he had to learn how to read, he had to learn how to write, he had to learn how to speak properly again. And this was at a young age for him. This was at like 7, that same age range. Um, but he has a scar like across his head, and like I mean he's a pretty athletic guy, but and you would never guess it. If you talk to him, my dad is like a very social dude, and you would never guess it. He's very smart. I'd say he's a lot smarter than he gives himself credit for. Coming out here, like I was saying before, building a deck, like, and it's like art to him.
Hmm.
I mean, not just that, but he does everything, electric, HVAC, whatever he does, he's like an expert in it. And I hope that like he passes on some of that to me. I mean, I'm a little bit mechanically inclined, but my dad's at a different level, man. So, but yeah, just coming back to that, I'm just I'm grateful because other people have it a lot harder,
Hmm.
you know. So
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Well, and when you talk about the Powder Puff Girls, I was laughing so hard. I have a 7-year-old son, and
yeah,
I could see him doing that. That's why it was so funny.
yeah. So you know what I
But
tell my son now? I tell him like when he's taking these standardized tests, I'm like, listen, you, you do not want this.
yeah,
Okay. You want to be not in those classes. Like it
yeah,
was as much as I learned it myself,
yeah.
like you don't want to be in those classes. And I'll tell you what though, the teachers they put in those classes are the best. They are the best teachers. And sometimes, I mean, in some ways, I feel like I learned more because of how good those teachers were. I mean, imagine the patience they have to
Oh
have.
yeah.
I mean, and not only that, but they're busting their butt to like get those kids on the same level as everybody else. I'm at like they're probably coming from the same background. They're like, I just really want this kid. You want that kid to succeed so much because you know what it's like as an adult. You know what it's like to live a life. And you know what it's like if like you can go back in time and tell your younger self something, like what would you tell yourself? I mean,
Hmm.
imagine if you could have a conversation and you at that younger age would understand that that's you talking to you, you know? And I feel like that's now when you have a child, that's what you're doing.
Hmm.
You're now going back in time and you're talking to them. And I know it might sound crazy, but I literally look at it like that when I'm talking to my son. I'm like, if I was you right now, what would I tell me? What would I
Yeah.
want my dad to tell me? You know? And sometimes I know I could be a little hard sometimes on my kid, and I just really love him, and I want him to be the best version of himself. So like my dad did with me inadvertently. I
Hmm.
mean, so yeah,
Well, I think that's a great way to look at it, and I think fatherhood's something that I need to talk more about on here because you're right. We have that opportunity when we have sons to give them teaching moments and love them and raise them in the way that we maybe wanted to be raised, but also to not make the same mistakes that we did. So I think that's a great way to put it. And I love to hear that because like I said earlier, man, there's so many kids out there now that don't have a positive male role model
mm,
or a dad. And I'm divorced. I co-parent.
yeah,
So I'm really
that's
trying to
tough.
dude, you got no idea, bro.
Well, I
But
know how it
but
is because I know how it is from a child's perspective,
okay,
but
okay.
and I can
Yeah.
yeah, and I can't imagine being in. I mean, I remember how stressed out my dad was. Like
Yeah.
so, and that's a whole nother part of my life where just like my dad and my mom had me when they were very young.
Okay.
They were like 19 years old when they had me. I can't imagine. I mean, I don't know if you had a kid that
No.
young.
No. Uh-uh.
No, but could you imagine being 19, having a kid and still in
Mm-mm.
high school and still not knowing what you're going to do with your life and all that stuff? So, from the jump, like it's already on hard mode. If that, lack of better terms, we're on hard mode now. Because now we're 18, we still don't have anything established, and then bam. Now you have a baby. Now your focus shifts with your life. All your plans, everything you had planned for yourself takes a backseat to parenthood because now your priority is your kid, in my opinion, right?
Hmm.
Like you
Yeah.
gotta make sure they got food, make sure they have all this stuff. And my dad always tells us this story, like when he was, essentially my mom and dad, it didn't work out with them. And so my dad had us, he got sole custody.
Wow.
And one time he was so broke that like he was like, I don't know what I'm gonna make these kids for dinner. And he's like, my dad's a pretty good cook, and he was like, you know what? I'm gonna make them cookies. And he's like, they were the best cookies. He was like, we had the stuff for cookies, and I just made a bunch of cookies, and you guys thought it was like the best thing ever.
Nice.
And like to him, he was like just trying to get us food,
Yeah.
make us food. And like, I mean, that's that's just what you got to do, you know? I
Yeah.
mean, you got to do what you got to do. We were never hungry, and like I never felt like any one of my parents didn't love me any less, you know? I mean, even going through, the child exchanges and the arguments and stuff like that. I think it's as you get older, man, like you kind of got to give your parents a little bit more grace, you know? And for a long time, dude, like I didn't see my mom for 10 years. Like she married a major, I think he was a major, a captain in the army. He's a pretty good guy, but he was stationed over in Germany. So
Mm.
he was over there, I was over here. And then my stepmom at the time, who's phenomenal, raised me and then ended up adopting me. So
Wow.
legally, yeah, legally she's my mother and like she is my mother. She raised me. Like I would not be who I am today without my parents. Like I can't imagine, man, the nights she spent up with me trying to help me like through school, all this stuff, man. Like like I said, man, as you get older and as I get older with my own kids, I'm like, God, I am so lucky. Like it wasn't a coincidence that I turned out like the way I am. I went from having like being in special education classes to now living in almost $1 million home, that I own. Like I'm proud of that. Like I'm proud that I was able to not just for me, but like if my parents ever needed it, like I would be there and I can. And that's what I want to be able to do for them. I want to be able to have something where my kids can come back to and feel like comfortable, Like I want to have somewhere where like my friends can come and stay with me if they need to. Like I always try to call, and I know I'm like bouncing all over the place
No, you're
and
good.
stuff like that. I really think that having good relationships like that and and respecting and having grace for people is like pretty important, because everyone's got they're like living a life,
Hmm.
Like
Well, your dad sounds like a hell of a dude, man. Like he
he is.
sounds incredible. What age were you, Mike, when your parents got divorced?
Um, so I think my parents got divorced when I was around, I want to say maybe 3 or 4.
Okay.
And then my mom and my dad, like she was my stepmom, they got divorced when I was a senior in high school.
Okay.
So, but there was no co-parenting at that point. Like I was just
Right.
like I was adult, like, and I'm like I just joined the military essentially. Like it was like my senior year of high school. I was focused more on girls and wrestling. Like that's that was it. And like I was like at that point I was like I want to be a Marine and like, or whatever. I wanted to be in the military. I wanted to serve in some capacity. So,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay.
But yeah.
Yeah, my we got divorced when my little boy was 4, so I was
Yeah.
just curious, but
Hmm.
it's cool to hear your perspective, as a a kid that went through a divorce versus what I've seen on
Hmm.
my end. I didn't experience that. My parents were still together. Me and my brother were kind of the black sheep. We went rogue and had our own series of challenges, but no, it's just cool to hear that perspective because divorce is something that I do try to bring up on here because so many men, I mean it, and I'm not going to get into the whole thing, but
Yeah.
it's different for guys. And what your
Yeah.
dad did is it's really cool to hear one of the good stories from it
Hmm.
because men are so demonized in divorce, regardless of circumstances. And I live in Tennessee. The court
Hmm.
system here is biased towards
Yeah,
men, and it's a shit show, dude.
it's proven. It's
It
proven.
is. It is.
And
Yeah.
it's not right. And the reason I think it is in that way is because the state has some way to benefit off of it, from what I understand. Like I could be speaking out my butt, but from what I understand and from what people say and from what I've seen, my dad is like an anomaly. You know, he got sole custody, but I think it's also because my family on my dad's side was so much more tight. Like I come from like a large Italian family,
Okay.
and
Cool.
like so at that point, like my grandfather, my grandmother, like they made really good money. Like they made, they weren't like necessarily like wealthy, but my grandfather came from like he came from kind of like he came from money. Like my great grandfather, who was in World War II, owned a giant construction company down in Florida, and like it ended up going belly up, and I don't really know like how all the ins and outs of that stuff, but my grandfather, from what he was telling me when he was a kid, man, he had like dirt bikes and motorcycles and boats. I'm like, dang, grandpa, what the heck? Where did all this go, dude? Like he was telling me about like how he'd be out there in Florida. He lived in Cocoa Beach, and they'd be
Nice.
throwing like oranges at each other. Like all these rich kids had boats, and they'd be driving around like the orange freaking whatever Tropicana freaking fruit plants, throwing oranges at each other, like tagging each other with oranges. I'm like, man, dude, that's a pretty cool life,
Yeah. Yeah. No
you know?
doubt. No
Yeah, he
doubt.
said one time they bought a bunch of scuba equipment and like went scuba diving naked, like in the mangroves or whatever. I don't even.
Oh,
I was like, what in the world, dude? You're ridiculous. But yeah, he lived like a wild life.
sounds like it. Yeah. Yeah. Um, let's get into kind of the story you were telling me before we came on the air.
Yeah.
So your that was your great grandfather or your grandfather that was
So
in Florida?
my great grandfather was in Florida.
Okay.
Yeah. So my great grandfather was in Florida. He was in World War II. He fought in like the Horn of Africa. He was in a armored division, so he was in a tank, and he got hit twice. Ended up getting two Purple Hearts and is buried in Arlington National Cemetery. Um, and I believe it was his brother that was his name is Chick Carmine, and he was one of the first U-2 pilots to fly over Russia during the Cold War. Um, yeah, it's pretty. And you never go without like a family holiday without like hearing about their stories and stuff like that. And it's remarkable to hear. Like as you get older, I'm like, holy crap, this guy was
Yeah.
flying over Russia in a U-2 spy plane. They thought they were flying so high they couldn't get hit, and dudes were getting shot down. And I'm like, I can't imagine. And his U-2 spy plane was actually in the in the Smithsonian Air and Space Museum. So, and when I was a kid, we got to go and see it. Something that's kind of funny is he told my grandfather, he's like, yeah, like, every time before I'd fly, like I would always chew like juicy fruit and I would stick it underneath the seat. And so like they went there to go see the plane, and they were like looking
No.
for the juicy fruit. Like they were like, can we see the seats? So, if they didn't, I don't know if they didn't clean it off or
Yeah.
whatever. Um, but yeah, it's a small world, man.
That's badass, dude.
Yeah,
That is badass.
yeah.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's
I'm
amazing.
I'm pretty proud of them for their accomplishments for sure. You
So
know.
did that kind of steer you in the direction of joining the military to kind of follow in their footsteps?
I think when I was 18 years old, like I didn't know what I wanted to do. Like I just wanted to help people. I knew I could do something. I just didn't know what. So I ended up joining the military at 17, and then at 18 I shipped off to basic training, turned 19 basic training, went through all that stuff, acquired obviously, and then yeah, man. I think something that gave me a different perspective on life in general is so I signed up and I did base honor guard at Dover Air Force Base, and that's like one of the bases that's so busy that their base honor guard, that's your full-time job. So you're essentially that you go there, that's your 9 to 5, or whenever they need you. And I did that for a year. And within that year, I went to over 106 funerals.
Wow.
And this was back in 2011. I went from being just normal at that point. I think I was like 20-year-old kid, oh, I want to do this, I want to do that, but you don't get to see what the consequences of this and that are.
Hmm.
You don't get to see the families of these people, like, and look into their eyes and tell them, like, thank you, sir and ma'am, for your loved ones, service to this nation, over and over and over again. And it's like, I can do more. Like, I want to do more. I want to be able to help people in a better capacity. If I could have retired after 20 years and done honor guard, I think that that would be phenomenal. I feel like that is just, it's one of the best jobs I've ever had. And just because of how honoring it is. And when you take it serious, like like you were talking about earlier, going to Quantico and getting my hair cut, and I learned how to cut my own hair because you're so broke as like an E1. Like, I'm trying to do everything I can to look good, so that way your image, that last representation of like what the military was to those people, is like that's what their loved one was like. Like, their
Hmm.
loved one was, it's not about you
Right.
in that capacity. It's about them. It's about being the best you can be, so that you are the representation that that family thinks that their loved one could do this. Their loved one was this freaking awesome, and they were, and they gave the ultimate sacrifice, something that, I didn't do, but their loved one was able to do for this beautiful nation. So that's just something that's stuck with me and continued to stick with me throughout all of my service in general. So, yeah.
That's really cool that you joined because you wanted to help people, and I'm pretty sure your buddy Xander said the same thing. Must be an Air Force thing, but
Yeah.
yeah, it's pretty
Yeah.
cool, man.
Yeah.
Because you don't hear that a lot. At least I haven't when it comes to joining the military. Usually, it's I want to go blow shit up or I want to go fight. And it's cool to hear a maybe more mature way to look at it. Like I just want to help some people, but
Mhm.
no, that's the honor guard. I admire that. That's something that I don't think I could have done. Um, but that's really cool to hear your perspective on it because that is I mean, for those that don't know, I mean, that's a huge deal. I mean, that's a lot of
Yeah.
responsibility on you, but also
Mhm.
for what you're giving to those families who,
Yeah.
had someone pay the ultimate price for this great
Yeah.
country. That's really
And where
admirable.
I'm at now, like, luckily I'm able to still, like, I just pretty much began my career as a firefighter. But they have honor guard in the fire department that I'm in, and they have honor guard in the larger police departments and everything like that. And I will pursue that. And that is one of my goals, is to continue to do that, in that capacity, because it's the same thing, man. It's the same thing. You got these people that they are giving the ultimate it could be me. I mean, I don't know. I, and they need people to do that. They need people that, if they can do it, they're willing to do it, you know, just do it for the families.
Hmm.
Like, you could do it. And if you can, like, you look good, you present yourself well, like, I think that's phenomenal. And that's what carried me through, like, all my other training, like, going through, you see people suffering, you see people struggling, giving it like their best. They've been training for years, to do this. And I mean, shoot, I remember being back in, going through our indoctrination course with Xander, and just a phenomenal dude. He's a great guy. And I remember one time it was after our indoctrination course. We were in combat dive together, and I think he had like it's called a shallow water blackout or something like that, and or something happened when we were doing our one man competency, and I remember looking at him, and he was like on the bleachers, and he was just so pale, dude, and like the feeling that it gave me, like my heart was broken. I was like, oh my God, dude, is he okay? He ended up being fine, but like at that time, I was like, holy shit, like I don't want to watch one of my buddies freaking, you know, something happen to them. Like, we literally just made it through like one of the toughest schools, and like we're all high on life at that point in time, and I'm just like, a lot went through my head, you know? I was like, "Holy crap, like, no freaking way." Like, not him. He's one of the freaking toughest dudes. He's you know, a lot of things go through your head. Young guy. I think he was younger then too. So it was like I think he was like 19 or something like that. He was a
Mm,
very young guy um going through that whole program. But you don't want to lose somebody that you went into training with. That sucks, dude. I actually one of the combat controllers that was in our combat dive school back in 2018, I think it was around that time frame. He ended up having a high-speed malfunction out of the back of an aircraft and drowning in the Gulf of Mexico.
damn.
You know, I mean, and that's in training. And then in the same year, one of our officers ended up dying in a training accident, and you know their aircraft hit some power lines. You know, and that's it. Just sucks, dude. You know.
Yeah. Yeah. Dangerous, dangerous job for sure.
Yeah.
Well, how did you
Yeah.
go? So you went from the honor guard, so you went into the pararescue pipeline after that?
Yeah.
Okay.
So yep, went into the pararescue pipeline after that. Ended up getting out in 2017, and then I did some contracting for a while overseas. Did some contract work over in Afghanistan. While I was in Afghanistan, it was just like because I couldn't find a job after I got out of active duty. So I was like, this sucks. And I got a random call one time from it was Constellus Group, and they were like, "Do you want a job making like $200,000 a year?" And I was like, "Who is this? Like, are you serious?" And then so I ended up like following up with it, and I was like, "Wow, this is legit." And I called my wife up, and I was like, "Hey," like at the time, I was getting all my stuff done to go to nursing school, because I wanted to continue to like. I know I like doing the medical thing, you know, so I love doing that whole, um, like I just love patient care. Like it's fun to me. Like it's like a puzzle, you know, and like you get to bring that like hope to somebody, and I like being able to do that. I love being a medic. Um, it's a lot of fun, you know. It brings a lot of, you know, just it brings a lot of like satisfaction to be able to help somebody in general. But that's what I was doing, and then went over to Afghanistan. It was probably one of the most fun jobs I ever had. The guys there, they're all mature dudes. They're just solid freaking guys, you know, trying to earn a buck for their family. Then I ended up joining the Army National Guard. Ended up going to selection, and then for special forces,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
then COVID happened, and
Mm,
then it kind of ruined everything after that. Like I was just, they were like, the Army told me they were like, "Oh, you won't have to redo the medical course, like, because you did it, you know, throughout, you know, your pararescue pipeline. You won't have to do X, Y, and Z." And I was like, "Oh, awesome! That's gonna be sick. I could just transfer everything over." And they're like, "Yeah." And I was like, "Cool." And then one day I got a call and like, looks like you're gonna have to do everything over again." And I was like,
ooh,
"What? For what?" And they're like, "For the certification." And I'm like, I'm not doing I cannot talk my wife and they move into wherever Georgia for 9 months. And she also had a career at the time too. So
mm,
it just wasn't in the cards. So I was like, I'll help out. They ended up putting me on active orders for a while, and they I learned a lot from them, man. Those like 18 deltas, like special forces medical sergeants, and like you know all those dudes, they're freaking phenomenal. I ended up helping them out with training, and like it was I love that unit. Like so, I was with 19 Special Forces group out in Colorado, and I think those guys are they are awesome. They are great guys, and you know, guys and gals out there, like in the unit, you know, 'cause it's not just dudes there, but just in general, man, those guys are solid. They got a family, and they still come to, you know, the training drill weekends, and they're just as freaking awesome as the 10th group dudes that are active duty. They're phenomenal, you know. So yeah, I'm glad that I even got a chance to meet those guys. And then in that time, um, there was like a budgeting crisis or something like that. So then I was like, you know what? I need to get like a job, like a real job. And then I became a cop. You know, doing that whole thing, I went to the academy in 2020. And, so right in the middle of my academy, near the back end of it, like the whole thing happened with like George Floyd. And then
oh.
and then COVID happened. Like it was like a snowball. So that was my first year as a cop was
Wow.
2020, like on the street. And like I remember my, you know, like the training officer or whatever, they were like, "This is not how it normally is. It's not. I swear to God, dude." So like, I went from being a civilian to like hard mode cop. Like they were like, "It's not normally like this." Like, talk about resiliency.
Yeah.
Imagine coming in being a cop, and then the first thing you deal with is you are given CPR to a dude on the side of the street, and then like people are yelling "F the police." That's literally what I was dealing with out there. Like we had protests, and I think everyone has their right to do what they want to do. Um, this is America. This is what we fought to protect everyone's God-given right to let their voices be heard. It's just when you're trying to like help somebody and like you're arresting like a child predator and like people are like screaming at you like over and over, that does kind of beat you down.
Yeah.
You know.
What was this out? Were you a police officer out in Colorado? Is that where you
Mhm.
were?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah.
And it's I mean, I had an amazing department, um, phenomenal training. I mean, I came out here and like, we ended up making the move like you know, because all my family lives out here. So coming out from Colorado to here, but I'm telling you that the department I worked for was a smaller department and they were phenomenal. Like they literally had like an amazing budget because all the citizens like absolutely loved them. And like I think they had almost like a 90% approval rating or whatever. I don't really know how
Yeah.
they get rated or whatever, but like they would every single like weekend we'd come in, people would bring in stuff and cards, whatever, like they trusted us. And like even working, out on the street in like the not so great areas, like you kind of bring like we're different, like different than like I'm not gonna talk crap on any of those agencies out there because I think that everyone's got it's like you don't know what they're dealing with. You know what I mean? Like the clientele they have to deal with is different based on the general area. It's even the same out here in Northern Virginia. It's like you take a cop in the same department and you put them from one end of the county to the other end of the county, and it could be night and day, man. It could be like a different, you got to have a different way to talk. You have survival skills, you know, um, and that's just the way it is. And that teaches you resilience, man. You got to be resilient to go through those things. And that translates over to the whole fire department thing too. Like you look at things differently. I think that where I'm at right now, like after being in the military and like doing some of those cool things, and then going over and like being a contractor, going to law enforcement, being a firefighter, like I try to put all those things together and like build upon it,
Hmm.
so and like that's where I'm at now. I'm still like I'm literally just I think I'm just cracking the surface of like learning who I am, if that makes any sense.
You're like Captain America, dude. You've done everything. That's crazy.
Well, it doesn't feel like it. I still have those, long days where I'm like you have that like that reflection,
Hmm.
in yourself. Like I wish I could be like I want to be better. I want to do better. Like I want to work out more. I want to be a better dad. I want to like eat better. Like like I've done a lot of different things, but you know, you got to stay humble, man. Right?
Yeah.
Like that's everyone's got. You got to stay humble. Like holding the family together. Like, and I think what you were talking about before about divorce and stuff. Like something that I've learned just being married for 10 years. Um, every day, man. Like you learn something new, and like I sometimes I forget how long we've been married, and that's just like I really love. Like my wife is phenomenal. Like she's been through everything with me you know, being in the military, going through the whole like pipeline, going through, and going to Afghanistan and, being a cop and coming home and as a different me comes home, depending on the day. Like you never know what you're going to see. Same now. Like it's a little better now, um, because of the work life balance is so much better, like where I'm at. So like, just because like I had a rough day, like I have time to kind of like recover a little bit before I come home, if that
Mm.
makes any sense.
Yeah, yeah, it does.
So, so yeah, because we work 24s, and like if I had a long night, man, like as a cop, I'm coming home. And there was days like I'd be like it'd be like -10 degrees outside, -20 degrees. I'd have my window rolled down. I'd be like sticking my head out the window. Like I couldn't sleep at the station. Like,
Yeah,
so like I was exhausted. But here, like being a firefighter, like if I had a long night, some nights that happens, like I could just sleep at the station for a while.
yeah,
It
yeah,
makes a big difference coming home, man. I'm telling you, like can't bring that crap home. My wife understands it, and I think, you know, just in general, like there's a lot of hard times that we went through as a couple, and I think if if more people just like cared enough together, because like you both have to be in it. If you both aren't in it, like that's what happens. Like you
mhm,
just one person can have that, we could do this. Like we just got to get over this hump. It's tough to get over that hump. It is really tough. And you know, it's like anything, God's going to give you a challenge, man. Like anything worth fighting for is going to be hard.
yep,
And something that's really worth it is going to be a constant battle. But it doesn't mean it's not or worth the fight,
mhm.
if that makes any sense.
No, it
And
it does for sure.
like, and that, I don't know, like I just see that a lot. Like there's a lot more to it. Like it's not just like, oh, it's so easy, just like, oh, I have to fight and I have to fight. Like sometimes, like just I learned myself, like listening to my wife, and and not just listening, but like hearing. And my dad used to say that a lot. Like he's like, you're listening to me, but are you hearing me? And sometimes I'd have to listen, like hear my dad's voice in the back of my head, like you're listening to her, but are you hearing her? And like, because her opinions are valid too, right? Like if I was just like, whatever, like, like you're just being too sensitive. Yeah, maybe she is being too sensitive, but also maybe she's being too sensitive about something because like I'm being an asshole. You know what I
Mhm,
mean? Like, and
mhm.
that's, or maybe she's being too sensitive about something because something's bothering her. Like maybe it's not even me. And like I learned over time, like being married for a bit, um, sometimes you just gotta learn how to like go away for a second, go for a walk, and talk when things are cooler, and
Mhm.
it's okay to do that. And I think, um, it took me a while to learn, like as a cop and just as a human in general. Back then, I was like, man, pride is like the worst sin. Like it really is. Like, where do all these problems come from? It's like pride, pride,
It'll
pride,
destroy
pride.
you, man. It'll destroy
Yeah,
you.
and it's like just something that I've learned, and like I said, I'm still growing, still trying to be a better human being in general. But I think things are going pretty good, and I just need to continue,
Yeah, yeah.
continue if we can do better.
You Mike, you have a lot of wisdom, man. Like, you have a really good outlook on life, and I'm glad you brought God up because I wanted to ask you, at what point, throughout your life did God become real to you? Did you maybe really experience God or put your faith in him or say, "Hey, I need to follow God because he loves me, he's in control." Can you kinda elaborate on that a little bit?
I don't think there's any one specific point. I grew up Catholic,
Okay.
and I'm still searching for myself and like searching just for a place, because I really do feel like there's an emptiness in me. And I've been thinking about this a lot lately, actually. I think it was right around the time you messaged me and like I started talking to you, and I was like, like I don't know if like what things we can bring up and stuff like that, but like, there's an incident where somebody like got killed, and like it was in like a national news, right? And I was like, if somebody like that, like he stood on like what he believed in, and in my opinion, like I mean, that I don't know, like it just for me that like one moment, like really hit hard. I'm like, this guy literally just like preached like from the Bible.
Mhm.
And what exactly does the devil want to do? He wants to shut up the truth,
Yep.
and knowing like I went through all these, Catholic, you know, Christian Catholic schools. Like I went through CCD, like confirmation school and stuff. And like I kind of took that stuff for granted, man. Like I really wish I would have shut up and stopped trying to be a little clown and listened, because that's all I was trying to do is be funny, but like going through that stuff, like having personal loss, my my one of my best buddies, um, we were in the pipeline together. He was my roommate during Indoc, ended up getting shot and killed, shot in the neck. He was a cop at an adjacent agency to me. And the way I found out, man, like I was getting my hair cut and I looked like at the news and it was like officer shot, like, from this specific agency, right? This is like, it's tough to talk about, but I think it's important because I don't want other people to go down this road that I did. So for me, I'm getting my hair cut and I'm sitting there and my wife's next to me, like it was one of those days, like normally she wouldn't even come with me to get a haircut, but I was getting my haircut at her friend's salon, which she did a phenomenal job. And she's like, "Oh, isn't your friend an officer at that agency?" And I was like, "Oh yeah, he is." But in your mind, like at the time, I'm thinking, "There's no way. There's thousands like of officers at this agency, or like 1,000 something. Like there's a lot of officers there. What are the chances?" And I'm just like sitting there, get my hair cut, and then she's like, "Did you know this person?" Like, and I was like, I looked over, like, just with my eyes, and, like, just the weirdest chill came down my back. Like, I still, like, don't even know. Like, and I was supposed to work that night.
Wow.
So I'm like, okay, like, this isn't real. So I texted him. I'm like, yo, like, you good? Like, you okay, man? Like, I miss you. And, I didn't hear nothing back, obviously. And I see it on the news, and I'm just, like, listening to this stuff, and I'm like, well, I got to go to work. So I drive home and like I don't even know how I drove home, man. Like I was just like I didn't even want to talk. I got to work. I worked the whole shift. It was the worst shift in my entire life. So that night we had uh, a guy who wanted to commit suicide and kill a bunch of people at this like arcade place, like a Dave and Buster's situation. And so his sister calls in and she's like, well, and I'm the officer that's dealing with this call. So I'm like, sitting there on the phone with her. She's like, yeah, he has his gun and he wants to like shoot himself. And she's like joking about it, like it's some kind of like joke. And I'm like, ma'am, this is not a joke. Like this is serious. Like, is he at this place with a gun? And she's like, yeah, and yeah, but like he's not actually gonna use it. And I'm like, oh my God, dude, like holy crap. And so next thing you know, she says, oh, he's home. And I hear a bunch of screaming, and then I hear gunshots, and then
Shit.
I start hearing, "Oh my God!" Like it was just like I'm on the phone while this is happening. I go from in park because I have her address. I get on the freaking gas. I freaking haul ass like emergent, like code 3 down the damn or whatever code. I'm hauling ass like down the highway, and I'm going towards these freaking people, and like we're getting ready to stage, we're getting ready to do all this stuff, and I'm like in my whole life, all the things that I've ever been through, I've never felt like it operating in the red. Like you hear about this,
Mhm.
but I can't tell you, man. I thought I was gonna have a damn heart attack, and I wasn't even
Damn.
in the room. I didn't. I've cleared buildings. I've freaking, I've been in some sketchy situations, where like I've had certain things happen, and I've never felt like that. But in that circumstance, man, just everything that happened, like I should not have gone to work that day. I should not have been there. I should have had the mental awareness to call out. It wasn't responsible of me to do that. It wasn't it wasn't worth it. I should have collected myself mentally. I have never cried so much in my entire life, you know, and like just every day, man, would come in waves. Like just I'd be working out and then freaking I would just break down, dude. And then my son would walk in, "Hey, daddy, are you okay?" And I was just like, "Jesus, dude, oh my God." But like for somebody who was like my little brother, and then like having to go to that funeral, like I'm glad that I was able to attend it, and I'm glad that my agency allowed me to go there and take a patrol car, and they allowed me to take my wife and all this stuff. But yeah, man, I just if I could pass on anything to anybody, just be smart about things. Like if things happen like that, like be a bigger guy and just or girl and just call out and take care of yourself mentally, because you don't want to be in that situation where you're operating in the red because it's not good to anybody. It's not good to you. It's not good to your team. It's just dangerous, you know?
I'm really sorry to hear about your friend, man. And I want to say this though, don't beat yourself up too much because I think you were just doing what you thought was the right thing to do was to go to work. And I were there any resources available at the time, like for your department to say, hey, if you need to process this, that we've got this person here you can talk to. Did you have that available?
Yeah, I did.
Okay,
I
that's
and I
good.
and I utilized it. I
Good, good,
I asked for it. Like they were once I brought it up, like once I brought it up, they were like, "You need to go home, dude. Like we need to take care of you." Like
good.
I had some pretty good like I said, man, my department was solid. They were very understanding. Once they found out, they were like, "Oh my God, dude, I'm so sorry. You should not be here right now." My supervisor pulled me aside and he was like, "Hey man, let's just talk, dude. Like just me and you. Let's just talk." And I, obviously let my emotions out and everything like that. And it was like just a lot, dude.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
just still wish that like that had never happened. And it's like, that song that says like only the good die young, man.
Hmm.
Like really good guy and only the good die young. Like in that regard, dude. It's like he had everything going for him and just super smart guy, in shape, good looking dude, and just one, domestic violence call, somebody pulls a gun out, shoots him in the neck, and he bleeds out. And there ain't nothing nobody can do about it, you know? And it's just, god damn, dude.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just, it's a tough one, but, in that, in like the same year my daughter was born, I think like, sometimes God takes, sometimes God gives. And God gave me a beautiful little girl in the same year. And it's like, I feel like that's a blessing,
Yeah.
to have like just in for myself, I mean, maybe that's not the correct way to look at things sometimes, but for me, it was like, God took one of my best friends away and then gave me this beautiful girl. Like I got something to be grateful for, you
Hmm.
know? So, and I got a son, I got to pull myself up by my bootstraps and freaking show my son it's okay to freaking be vulnerable. It's
Yeah.
okay to let it out. It's okay to feel this way, you know, and like explain to him, like, yeah, that was my best friend, dude. That's why I'm upset. My son at the time was a little younger. I think he was like 5. He's like coming over, giving me a hug, and I guess like I'm lucky I have that. Some guys don't have that. Some people don't have anything.
Yeah.
They just lose and they don't have anything. But you always have God and you always have, something that like the whole reason why like I started doing some of the things I want to do on social media just in general is like I want people to remember like they don't have to reach out to me in particular. They can. And I will sit down and I will talk to them. I will answer my, messages. I will talk to them. Like some people have come to me and they're like just they literally tell me like crazy stuff they're going through. Someone to answer to me. But just if you have not talked to a friend in a long time, it really does mean a lot to people to just pick up the phone and call them, you know? And like not just a text message, even a text message is better than nothing, but like just call them up. Call them
Hmm.
up. You never know what you're gonna go through. Like one of my buddies, one of my best friends, he's deployed right now. Um, he was blown up by a grenade in Afghanistan.
Damn.
He is alive. He made 100% recovery. Goes to Walter Reed. Wife leaves him at Walter Reed. He was on a picture on Facebook or whatever, and I was like, he's supposed to be deployed right now. Like, why is he in a wheelchair? So I call him. I'm like, yo, what the heck? What are you doing? And he's like, this is what happened. And I'm like, well, are you okay? Like, mentally. And he's like, no, man, like, my wife left me. And I was
Oh,
like, hold on, what? He's like, yeah, man, she left me. She took my kid. She's gone.
jeez.
And I was like, what the heck? And so I was like, you know what, man, we're gonna talk. We're just gonna sit here. It was like my first day working at this one job. I was working as like a medic at like some random place, like, and I was like, no, forget this. I'm gonna talk to you. And I talked to him and I was like, I'm going to call you tomorrow and I'm going to call you the next day. And I don't care if you don't pick up. I'm going to keep calling you to make sure you're okay. Even if it's for 5 seconds, dude, and you just say, hey, I'm good. Cool. Well, I kept calling him, kept bugging him, like, and eventually it was like every week and every month. And like, I figure now he's starting to do a little bit better and he's giving me like updates, like he's making progress and now he's 100% back to doing what he was doing. He's active PJ doing his thing, freaking crushing it.
Nice.
And now he's remarried and he's happy and he's freaking living his life. And he told me one time, he said, if you didn't call me, I think I wouldn't have been here, And I'm like, I didn't do that. I was just being myself with you, man. But like, then it kind of like inspired me. His words inspired me to reach out to more people in my life that like I just hadn't talked to in a while.
Mhm.
And I was like, you know, that's a good thing to do, man. It's just like you get a group of guys, get them together, go shooting, do something, and just talk,
Yeah.
you know, and then say the same thing to them. And then you know what? It pays it forward. And you know, one of my buddies I was going to the academy with in the fire department, sitting down, and I had the same conversation with him, and he's like, you know what? I took your advice. I called one of my buddies from like college, and he's like, it was the best conversation. Like I'm so glad you said that. And I was like, I forgot I even told him that. Like half the time I just talk, dude. And you know, I sat there and I told him, you know, like I was saying, I told him the story I told you, because I think something was happening with him, and I was like, I just want to talk about resilience because lesser lesser men have accomplished harder things under worse
Mhm.
circumstances. And that's something that like somebody told me somewhere and it just stuck in my head. I might have read it somewhere, I don't know. But like that's true, man. Like you look at some of these people that have accomplished phenomenal things and they have done it under way worse circumstances than you've ever done or I've ever done. And look at them. And if they can do it, you can too. You
Mhm.
know, it's just that's just my outlook on it. And it hasn't let me down since.
You're a good man. I mean, you are a good man. I mean, you are definitely living in a life where you're displaying the humbleness and caring about others, and that is really admirable. And I think it's something that I myself need to strive to be better at. And I mean, you're going to inspire a lot of people with that because you never know what people are going through, man. And even if you may be bugging them or feel like you're overstepping, you never know. You could save someone's life just because you're showing that you care and you give a damn about them and want to make sure that they're okay. And we need more.
I need to, take my own advice sometimes too, especially at like 4 in the morning when I'm I'm tired and we get some weird call that somebody, crapped himself and, but it is what it is. Like, you know, you gotta you gotta like give people grace. And like I'm trying to do everything I can to continue to give people more and more grace. It goes back to my parents, it goes back to whatever. Like you don't know what like everybody was like your age at one point. Like even when you were younger, everybody was that age. Like how are you gonna act if you did that? Just I think that that's important to recognize that everybody is living their own individual life. And you know, you can be a freaking tough dude and you don't need to necessarily show it. Like you could just be a tough dude and like get other people to be a tough dude, you know? Like something that I really like to do. Um, like I really love doing memorial workouts. I love doing them in the military, but like I start to look stuff up and I'm like, man, like this person had an amazing life. Like, let's do something for him. And then like, let me read about their story and like, let me get my station to do this with me. Like, and then we all start doing it together. And it's like, now we're, we're suffering together. We're like, I talk about, what this person is like sacrificed. And I'm like, that is like, we learned something together. And then we also became a little bit stronger, like that's just something I think is important. Like, even if it is what it is, get a buddy to go out and like, go trail running with you or something, like
Mhm.
get them out of the house, freaking get them in the house, play some video games with them. Like if they can't, like you can do something. Like
Yeah.
just gotta keep moving because I think mental health is extremely important, and it's important to talk about and recognize that we have we have our individual like struggles, but it's okay. Like that's part of being a human. That's what makes you feel like alive. Like that and caffeine, dude. Like you'll be all right, like you just like it's what 9 o'clock. I'm drinking some like, caffeinated tea. Like just gotta
Yeah.
do what you gotta do,
Yeah.
but it's okay and like it'll be okay.
Mhm.
Just gotta have a little bit of faith,
Jordan Peterson has a quote where it's about, you should be a monster, but you should be
Hmm.
able to control it. And I'm paraphrasing him, but basically to be able you're contained, you can unleash it
Hmm.
if you need to, but most of the
Yes.
time you're kind, loving, and gentle, but
Yeah.
you have the capability to be violent if it's absolutely necessary.
Yeah.
And
That's very, I think Jordan Peterson's a very wise man.
yes, he
Like
is.
I
Yes, he
listen to
is.
Jordan Peterson a lot. I haven't listened to him in a while, but there was like a time when I think he was very um, more outspoken. I don't know if he doesn't as much stuff anymore, but he's just very wise on like the way
Hmm.
he, kind of explains things and dumbs things down. Not, lack of better terms, like not dumbs it down, but just puts it more in a perspective that anybody can digest.
Hmm.
Because if you talk above people, no one's going to realize what you're saying. And I think,
Yeah.
you know, I like that about him, and it is important. That's why it's very important to get out there and when you do these, like for me, when I do these memorial workouts, when I'm working out, like everybody has a family to go home to. Do you want to be the reason why that person's family doesn't see them again? You don't got to go out there and do an ultra marathon and like, and do these things like run hundreds of miles, but like God forbid, like you work a job that the public expects a certain product. Get out there, stop telling yourself you can't, turn it around and just get it done. Like you can do it. Like I hate hearing that like, well, I got a kid. Okay. Like get a stroller. Like you can carry them. You know what I did when my daughter was born? I had a treadmill. I speak of from a place I think of more a privilege because I had the opportunity to buy a treadmill. Like I know everybody doesn't have the opportunity to buy a treadmill, but it's the point of the matter. Like, I would just sit there, I'd put on a weight vest and I'd carry her like a football.
Nice. Nice.
If that's how she would fall asleep. Like I would just carry her and like I knew I couldn't, you know, throw on my back and do a bunch of pull-ups with her, but
Yeah.
I'd put her in the gym with me. Like I worked hard enough. Nothing was given to me. I bought my own gym equipment and stuff like that. And I'd put her in a little thing and do like deadlifts and stuff like that. Like, and I would stay quiet. I have my headphones on. I'd be looking at her. But people do count on you. And I think that when, this is where coming back to going and doing the honor guard thing, like I looked in those families' eyes. Like I'm telling you, things are different when you have to tell the family. Like you have to look at the 5-year-old and tell him his dad is not coming home. You're not saying like your dad's not coming home, but you're looking at him. You're saying, you know, you're telling the kid like thank you for your loved ones like grateful service to this nation. You salute that little kid, and you give him the flag. You salute the flag, and then it's like you're looking at this family, dude. Like I'm not doing that for my friend, and I'm not doing that for my friend in the regard like I could have done better if that makes any sense. Like if I have to do it, I'm gonna know I gave everything I had. And I mean, I was you're gonna have to kill me to not get myself to go in there and help somebody with whatever situation it may be. When I was a cop, it's the same way. So one of my buddies needed my help. I was gonna move whatever I could to get to them, and I was going to get to them. Same way with being, a firefighter or something like that. Like, I'm in this job because I want to be, not because I have to be, but because I want to be, because I really do love that. Like, it's a team. You're there together. You laugh together, and they tell you about their family. You see pictures of their kids. Like, that's what drives me. When I'm in there, like when you're in the freaking zone and you got some crap going on, that's what's going through my head. Is like, this dude's kids are seeing their dad. I'm gonna make sure it happens. Like, I mean, I'm putting that on myself, but like, I know that it's not always gonna happen, and you can do whatever you can do. But in my mind, like, that's what drives me, is like, I don't want to give them, any kind of, like, I don't know, image that I could have done better. And I don't
Yeah.
want to have to go home and tell my son, like, I won't like go home and say like, oh yeah, I could have done better, but like, I'm gonna be a fraud if I go and I tell my son to give it his best shot,
Hmm.
try everything you can, be tough. Like, I want you to be a strong man. Like, I would be a fraud if I didn't, live that essentially, so that's just my take on it. Like, very
It
long-winded.
no, no. And the biggest thing that I've heard throughout this whole episode is you have not made one excuse. And so many people make excuses why they can't work out, why they can't do this. They could have done this. And I love it, man. There's so much positivity in your story, and it's inspiring. And I'm glad that you have that outlook and you can kind of share that, especially coming from a veteran and first responder world, because that can be a negative, in my opinion. A lot of negativity is associated with quote unquote hard jobs. And I
Yeah,
think it's great. It's refreshing to hear your perspective on that.
yeah. Well, I appreciate you. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm not always
Likewise.
100% positive, but you know, and I know, like, if some of my buddies watch this and I'm like, oh, I know that guy. He's not always. I know. Okay, I
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
and I'm trying, and I want everybody to do the best they can, and that you can't. I love them, and I'll do anything for them, and that's just what I think that we need more of in this world, is like, just give people grace, dude. Like,
Yeah.
give people grace. Love yourself, and you'll be all right. You know.
You're very humble though. And I think that's the difference. You may not always be positive because it's impossible to
Yeah.
be positive all the time, but you're extremely humble. So, that is remarkable, man.
Well, I
I'm gonna
appreciate it.
I'm gonna blow your mind real quick. We kind of hit on faith and we talked about God. So I use a Bible app that has a verse of the day that I like to read, and I like to incorporate it into each episode. And we didn't talk about a lot of this stuff prior to the episode. And I want to read today's verse real quick. It's from the book of Ephesians, written by Paul, and I'm going to read chapter 4, verse 2. Always be humble and gentle, be patient, and accept each other with love. Man, this whole episode, I've heard you talk like that, and it's pretty wild. God has
Yeah.
a funny way of kind of working, and it's cool how the scriptures tied into this
Yeah.
episode tonight. I think humility goes a long way.
I think I think that's what the world needs more of, man.
Hmm. Definitely, definitely.
Yeah.
Well, Mike, where can people learn more about you and get in touch with you if they want to reach out to you?
So I mean, I just have my Instagram, Precision with Purpose. If anybody wants to reach out and, just send me a message if you need help with whatever. Like, right now I'm on this kick where I really like going over, just medical scenarios and stuff, and like, I kind of want to bring more awareness to what just normal everyday people can do with, like, trauma care. But I also like to do a lot of, like, shooting and stuff like that as well. But I find that I really like to teach. Like, I like to teach, like, trauma care. I like to teach, like, what equipment and stuff people can use and stuff. So I'm trying to branch off into that. And but yeah, if anyone wants to reach out and even just say hi or whatever, like, if you need help, reach out. Like, there's a couple of organizations I know that are veteran organizations, and I can point you in the right direction if you need help with whatever it is with the VA. Like, I've been there, I've done that, and I'll point you in the right direction if I don't have the answer. But I'm here for you.
Awesome, man. Awesome. Well, as we're closing, if there's a man listening right now, Mike, that's on the edge of giving up, what would you say to that man?
It's not worth it. It's not worth giving up. And I know that you probably been told that about a million times by people that that know you and see you and stuff like that. But just know that it is not the end, and you have the ability to do anything. The one thing that you can keep in mind is you can always get a win. Okay. If you're down on your luck and you can't do anything and you feel like you suck, okay, cool. Can you stand up? If you can't stand up, can you pick something up off the ground? Can you do anything? That's a win. Small wins. It's like they said in the military, like how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. Okay. Like there was a guy, he did message me on Instagram, and great guy. He's like, I feel like I'm down. Like I feel like I'm at the end. And I was like, okay, is your house messy? He was like, yeah, it's a little messy. I was like, pick it up. You win. And then you know what you're gonna do? What else are you gonna do? Can you work out? Can you do anything? It's a win. But you got to show yourself that you're worth the win, and you are worth that win. And that's all I'd like to end on that, because it is very important. Like sometimes people they don't feel like they can't win at all. You can still win, man. And like I said, like you know where to reach me. If you need to talk to somebody, dude, like I work a 24-hour shift. I'll check my Instagram. I'll get back to you. I'll do what I can. And if I don't have those answers, I'll point you in the right friggin' direction. I'm not gonna point you to some dang phone number. Like I legitimately will try and do what I can for you. And if you could just let yourself know you're able to win. You are.
Great
So
advice, man. And speaking of Instagram, little plug for social media. I, in the past, was kind of anti social media, but there are a lot of benefits to it. And, that's how you and I met. That's really how I've met majority of the guests I've had on the shows.
yeah,
Guys and gals listening, there are some benefits to Instagram and building a community of like-minded individuals, because this is a group effort. You can't do all this on your own. And as men, it's easy sometimes to want to be in solitude and try to figure everything out. But we are created to inhabit together and to work together and help each other. So Instagram can be a valuable resource. So I'm glad that you are open minded and willing to help people that will reach out to you, man. That's awesome to
yeah.
hear you say that.
Well, that's the only way we're gonna be able to improve is you learn from other people, because people have gone through some stuff in life, and then put it into action.
Yeah.
I mean, I really hope that no one's feeling like that, at the end of their rope, because there's still rope. You're at the end of your rope, but there's still rope, man.
Mm-hmm.
You know. So
Well, Mike, I'm going to close this out with a prayer. All right. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Here we go. Heavenly Father, thank you for today. It's in the name of your son, Jesus, that I come before you. And I just want to say thank you. Thank you for bringing Brother Mike on tonight. And thank you for this platform to just help spread awareness for mental health and the importance of having you in our lives, Lord, and just being humble, being kind, and being gentle, and having the courage to reach out and ask for help, and to realize that we can't do all this on our own. Lord, thank you for just all the listeners, everyone that has supported the channel and that has supported the mission of spreading awareness for men's mental health. Lord, I pray that you will cover each listener in your blood and protect them, that you will bring them peace, that you will give their life purpose, and that you will bring power into their life so they can have the courage to ask for help and to reach out and inspire others with their testimony. Thank you so much for this, Lord. Thank you for this evening. And I pray you bless Mike and his family, and just comfort him and continue to be with him as he does such good work in this world. It's in your mighty name that I pray. Amen. If you got something out of this episode, please like and subscribe to the channel, Peace, Power, and Purpose Podcast, and share it with someone that might need to hear this message. Mike, thank you so much for coming on tonight, man. It was really cool to sit down and talk with you and get to know you better outside of just talking on Instagram. Thank you for the time that you set aside for me tonight.
Yeah, man. Thank you for having me. And what you're doing is phenomenal, and I hope that more people can hear it and it helps them.
Yeah, I really appreciate, man, that you had an incredible story, and I really admire you and your courage and just being so humble. I think all of us can learn from that.
Well, thank you. I appreciate you.
Yeah, man. Appreciate you, brother. Thank you for your time.